I just want to say thank you to our panelists. It will be a fun discussion. And I thought with 3 great honorees and such a short period of time that we would just jump right in. So I'm going to ask each of you to briefly, in your own words, tell us a little bit about your journey and a little bit about yourself. So we can start with Stacy from my left, looking for to Desiree to Meghan to share your story like we make the audience.
It's absolutely wonderful to be here. My heart is so full to see all of you out here. Thank you. And I'm really excited to share my story. My story is a little bit difficult to hear, but as you listen to this story, I think that many people may also identify with challenging situations that they've had in their life. And what my biggest message of my story is that these challenging situations that we face, that we take from them and then go out and do good to make sure things like that never happen again. I lost my grandmother very young. She was murdered by my grandfather. I grew up seeing her with bruises, and it was very obvious that there was physical abuse going on. I asked her why she stayed when I was in my late teens, because in my mind, I couldn't imagine how this amazing woman could let this happen to her. And I want you to think of those words, let this happen to her. I had a very wrong view of what physical abuse was, and I had a very incorrect view of how difficult it really is to leave. And she shared with me why she stayed, because she felt financially trapped, and actually, quite frankly, she was financially trapped. And so the abuse continued, even though he promised he stopped. And I lost her. She never met her grandchildren. She briefly got to meet my husband before before we were really married very long. And again, her life was really cut short. And it was truly because she didn't have the financial empowerment, the financial support. She didn't have the support in general for her to be able to move in a safe way. And that's what really drove me into the field of finance that I'll talk to you a little bit about, and quite frankly, why I am unbelievably passionate about women and how important it is for us to take agency over our money.
Thank you for sharing that. That is, I feel like I'm always scared to share authentic stories, and that's inspiring to just hear your openness. I'm Desiree. Thank you so much for having me. You can hear my microphone's on, and then here we do a mic check. So I am originally from Puerto Rico. I was born in El Condado, for those of you that might be familiar. And my parents moved to the States when I was just a few years old. And I really, a lot of things that I now as an adult can reflect on and seeing things that I had that I didn't have makes sense of a story that I think growing up I couldn't really fully connect the dots. But certainly them as a couple moving to the States, I had no realization at the time for a lack of connections that they had. Really no network, no system in place at all. And I really didn't grow up knowing about VC, where I work now, or entrepreneurship, or any of these things. And I was always very creative, though, and loved making things, loved problem solving. And I would end up getting into fine art, because I thought, I'm creative, I guess I'll be a painter. I didn't really, again, have exposure to much else of what I could do with that. And gonna summarize quite a complex career into a few minutes here, but I would end up, being a fine art major. I also always loved music. And so I had some friends that were performing at a place called Chris Porter of Big when I was in college. And for those of you that are familiar with the advertising world, that at the time was the biggest ad agency in the world. And they invited me to go see them play at this agency. And I always would carry around a little portfolio with me while I was in college. And so I went to go see them play, and I ended up sitting next to an executive. And that executive saw my work and offered me a job at Chris Porter. I would pretty much off the bat get exposure to working on brand strategy for some of the biggest companies at the time, from the Microsoft rebrand to Coca-Cola to Mini Cooper. Really, the list goes on and on. And we'll unpack this, I'm sure, throughout this whole conversation, but that is really what would kick-start my career. I would end up working heavily in, over the years, get really into digital, working in product development for some of the biggest tech companies in the world, leading dev teams, UX, UI teams of over 50 people, building products for Google, P&G, Microsoft again. That world is what would take me into the startup ecosystem. A lot of my friends would start graduating business school asking me, how do I have this app idea? Because everyone at the time thought building a company meant starting an app. How do I build it? How do I get it to market? And that consulting is the work that would get me to start my own business, focused on product development for early stage companies. I scaled it to a 7-figure business, felt on top of the world by year 3, but quickly realized that I was really not working with founders that looked like me, not Latinos, not many women, and the reason for that was because they were not the ones getting funded. I'm sure many of you here have heard the dire statistics, which I hate repeating because I hear them all the time, which is less than 2% of funding goes to female founders and people of color. And so I knew for me to really make a difference and impact and create a more equitable ecosystem that I needed to get on the side of VC to do that. And so I started investing myself and holding workshops, and all of that work would lead me to where I am now, where with Alicorp, one of the top VCs in New York City, founded by Kevin Ryan. And one of my major focuses is driving capital to Black, Latino, and female founders. And so again, you'll kind of hear more, we'll unpack that on the panel, but that's the broad, high-level story.
Would anyone like to take my place? Because I really don't want to. Hi, everyone. I'm Meghan McKenna, daughter of an Irish mother and father. He was a New York City police officer. I played sports growing up my entire life, whether it was basketball, softball, or volleyball, and that kind of embedded in me a very strong competitive drive, which I would say led me to kind of where I am today. Lifelong career, well, not lifelong, I would say, post-college, I did play Division I basketball at Colgate University, where we played against Pat Summitt's team. Rest in peace. We lost by 18, but the spread was 32, so I think everyone had a good day. And after that, I went into banking. After selling Cutco knives, because I still say that they are the best knives out there, and they are forever guaranteed, so I probably still know someone there. So went into banking, was there until 3 weeks ago. 7 years at JP Morgan, 10 years at HSBC, and most recently I ran the originations business at Stifel for 15 months until I made the jump to really put all of my time and effort into FIF Collective, which is the company I started on June 6th of 2023. So we are a company that is focused on female empowerment. We have close to 1,300 members in 15 months of operation across the levels of founders, CEOs, CFOs, VPs of finance, and venture capital partners. We do curated networking events, job placement, board seat advocacy, and a whole host of other stuff that we haven't thought of yet. Citrin Cooperman is a great partner, and we hope to have them more involved in much of the stuff that we do in the future. But I would say where I came from definitely has shaped me for who I am. I lost both parents relatively early, and someone that shares that commonality with me here in this room, Jem Allen, is a writer at Forbes that actually wrote our 1-year anniversary article for FIF. So it all definitely comes around, and Irish women know how to hustle. So,
You know, Stacy, we've known you a long time, and I know your grandmother's story as a power motivator as it relates to launching Saturday Ladies. How has her legacy influenced the way that you approach financial education for women?
I appreciate that. My grandmother is with me every day, and it's really her memory that keeps me pushing really hard. So I created a beautiful charity in her memory called Savvy Ladies, and you should check it out. I started it when I was 26. I just hit 50. And so there has been a lot of love that's gone into it. We started having financial literacy workshops in my Upper East Side apartment. We only could fit like 12 women, and I had 2 cats. Thank God no one was allergic because they sat on everyone's lap. And I didn't have money for catering, so I made all the food by hand. Translate to where we are today. We serve over 20,000 women a year. We have the world's largest financial health line. We connect over 4,000 women each year with certified financial planners to work free of charge. We have 250 FINRA-approved courses, and any financial topic you could ever imagine. We have live events. And what I'm most proud of is that it is free, and we also don't income test. Because had we income test, my grandmother would not have received the support she needed. And so we help women from age 18 when they're just getting started, starting their first job, of like, how do I manage credit card debt and student loans and all of that, to women who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s and wanting to retire and be financially secure. So that is a huge part of my life. But I will tell you, when you're 26, and it doesn't really matter how great and how important that mission was, no one would give me money. We filled out 50 grants, and my mom actually helped me write them. So I knew they were written very well because she was a school teacher and one of the best writers I know. We got, guess how many? 0. So when I was 27, I realized that I was going to have to make a blank ton of money, and I was going to have to do it really quickly because otherwise this charity was not going to survive. And I have a very different view of wealth. Naomi Wolf said something to me that changed my life. She wrote The Beauty Myth. And she said, if you want to make a change, make a blank ton of money and do good with it. And that has been my entire mission. So I adore making money. Why? Because it means I can give big. And because I worked so hard at my for-profit that I launched the year after, I have been able to give upwards of, over the years, probably $1 million to Savvy Ladies to help women who the financial services industry ignores because they can't figure out how to make money off of them. So it's her memory definitely is what's driven me and still drives me.
Yeah, I think what was most terrible for me, having known you for so long, is I always assumed that you had launched your for-profit business first and been uber successful, and as a result of that, like most successful entrepreneurs, were able to then invest and build out Savvy Ladies. But in fact, you started Savvy Ladies first, and that drove your entrepreneurial spirit. I'm curious if you can talk to us a little bit about those challenges. You mentioned the grants, but how you overcame some of those challenges to run both a non-for-profit and a successful entrepreneurship?
It was really hard.
So something that was very fortunate is I came out of investment banking. So I worked at a company called DLJ, Donaldson Wealth and Generate. They were taken over by Credit Suisse, and I was an investment banker there. And my typical work week was $80 to $100 a week. Would often sleep below my desk. It was before there were like rules and regulations that you weren't supposed to like do that to analysts. So when I started the charity and then Francis Financial after, I pulled those hours as well, but what was magical about it is I could do it when it kind of worked for my family. And there was a ton of sacrifice. My nanny made more money than I did because every time I could make another salary, I gave it to the charity or I hired for Francis Financial. My son's maternity leave was, he's now 18, was 3 days. And he actually was breastfeeding with me back at the office. 3 days later, my daughter's 15, was a little better, was 3 weeks. I gave up a lot. But I will tell you that I've had conversations with my kids. There was one day where I came home and somehow it just was a very hard day. And it was one of those days where sometimes you wonder, is it worth it? And I talked to my son and said, do you remember that I was never around? And he said, no, I don't remember that, but I know you're around now. And that is the magic, is that I work my brains out, but I am the class mom. I go to all their events, and I'm probably one of the most involved parents on the face of the planet. And so that's what matters. But yeah, I gave up a lot. But when you know you're doing something that's important, you don't feel it as much. And I think part of it is I felt like I didn't have an option. You know, it was just like that was going to be our family, and that's what we all committed to.
Yeah. Thank you. I vividly remember being late to one of my daughter's ballet performance. She was 2 years old, and the look on her face I would never forget. I said to myself, doesn't matter how many hours I work in that day, I'm not missing a single event. And then you work the hours, and you figure it out. But yes, there's something to that, to making sure that you show up when they're looking for you. To know, Desiree, as a minority woman in a male-dominated field, I can only imagine the challenges that you've had to overcome, and be honored if you would share some of those challenges with us and how you overcame.
Yeah. Kind of going back to something I said earlier too, around how sometimes you only see things in hindsight. And now when I look back to my upbringing, I really see how my parents really wanted me to be the best at being American and the best at being Latina. I needed to know all the history, the culture of both. And growing up, I think that really ended up having, the result was that I actually didn't feel that I fit in either space. I think I was so good at being American that the Latinas didn't see me as one of them. And then when I was in predominantly white spaces, I would hear them, people would feel very comfortable saying very racist things about Latinos. And in part probably because they didn't think of me as Latina, or, sometimes I joke that I'm like, I sometimes know just how racist people can be because they didn't see me necessarily as Latina. And that really chips away at your confidence. And it ended up having the result that for a long time I felt like I didn't really fit in either space. But over time and over the years and growing up, it ended up feeling like it was my biggest superpower. That I had the ability, because I could I saw these kind of different cultures and different types of people that I actually could empathize with so many different types of people with different backgrounds and ideas and different cultures. And I think the way that often shows up in work is being open to different ideas, bold ideas. And then of course it would also, that experience leads me to be completely unapologetic of wanting to build equitable spaces, support other people, and just do it in a way that I, even when I was running my business, I kind of mentioned briefly, I would really mostly just hire women, and in every angle, not only the people full time, but even if I was doing an event and needed a photographer, I would hire a woman. I was so thoughtful and intentional about it, and not because I don't love men and white men at all. It's nothing to do with that. It's not coming from that kind of a place. So sometimes people feel that that's somehow exclusionary, but more so that, again, seeing the level of inequality we face in some of these spaces, like I feel that unless you make it so intentional, we're not going to see change.
Would be more. If your fine art background is fascinating to me, and I'm curious. I always say that at the end of the day, a lot of life is luck. You got to put yourself in lucky positions. So you had that portfolio in your bag when you went to a concert, and in doing so, you were able to showcase your skill set, and now all of a sudden you would do the brand marketing, which really ought to have been on your radar. And I'm curious how you relied on your background in that invention.
Yeah, I love this question because I think that I'll definitely get to your question. I just want to make this comment because it reminds me of this, that we're living longer lives now, and I think we all, our careers twist and turn in ways that probably our parents' generation didn't as much, and feeling comfortable with that I think is really important, and so I love this question because of that. Yes, on paper it makes no sense. Like, how do you find our major? How do you work in VC now? It doesn't seem like it's connected at all. And yet to me, in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, it's so connected. It makes complete sense. For me, it really, again, I think just generally being a creative person, and then further to that, going to school for it, it really taught me how to think outside of the box, approach problems in a really different and unique way, and just approach things, with a level of just unconventional thinking. I think allows me to arrive to solutions in ways that I think sometimes others around me might not.
Thank you. Meghan, as a leader in the industry, I kind of posed a similar question to you, and ultimately, with the terms of the difficulties of navigating, a male-dominated space, and how that influenced your decision to create FIF Collective.
Well, knowing that there's a lot of bankers in here, I'll be very nice. But, I will say, as a woman in banking, you are very often the only woman in the room. And especially as you go up the ranks, becoming a managing director, I was very frequently the only woman in the room. So I think having to navigate the fact that I was not the best golfer was always a challenge, which I am working on now in my second part of my career. But I do think, the higher you climb, the harder it is to break some of those barriers. And given the fact that I was in venture and tech for probably the last 10 years of my banking career, I would say it was even more so very male-dominated within kind of that universe. What I always tried to do, which I don't even know if this is good or bad advice, was keep my head down and be by far the best at what I did. which for me, that's kind of easy to say because I was on the sales side of the equation. So I was originating business. That's kind of what I was born to do. It's a lot easier than being, I think, in some of the middle office or back office spaces to make yourself stand out and be the best, whether you are a male or a female. So I recognize that that in itself was a privilege that I had the honor to kind of be in that space. The second thing I'll say is, I had been through some very strong personal hardships, having lost my father in 2010 on Christmas Eve, and then my mother during COVID due to depression in 2021. And again, this could be perceived in two different ways, but after I lost her, I kind of just continued to think, you know what, I just need to now live my life where I want to make them proud. And I made the decision not to have children. I have an amazing husband who the Citrin guys know, and a lot of people know him in this room, who is basically my rock. But besides that, for me, work is life and life is work. And I think that's kind of why I made the decision 3 weeks ago to do FIF full time, because that's really where my passion lies, and life is short. I make good money as a banker, and I'm really not making money right now, but it's very early days for FIF, and I think the future certainly should at least include, if not be predominantly female. Sorry for all the men in the room.
Can we talk a little bit about FIS Collective and discuss your initial vision and give us a little bit of sneak peek at how it's evolved since its founding?
So the vision was, I was on garden leave from my time at HSBC. After a 10-year career, I made the decision to move over to Steeple to focus more on the investment banking side of the house. And they told me I was not allowed to call clients for 60 days. So my husband and I went to the beach in Cancun for a week. I immediately realized what it was like to have a husband still working while I was not, and I decided to start my own company. So June 6th of 2023, I incorporated literally the day after I got home from Cancun, and decided that it would be more of a curated networking platform to empower women and give them more of a community within kind of the finance side of the equation. Since that, I would say I did not expect the growth that we experienced in the first 6 months, let alone in the last 15 months since we started. So we have close to 1,300 members. We've launched into a whole host of different verticals. We got partnerships with the New York Stock Exchange, Ramp, NetSuite, all of the big four accounting firms, soon to be Citrin Cooperman as well. Davis Polk on the law side, Cross Country Consulting on the advisory side. So anybody that was selling into the seat of the CFO or the venture capital partners themselves saw value in the community that we were building, which to me also was kind of eye-opening that everybody wanted access to this community, and that made me feel pretty special. And then fast forward to our 1-year anniversary when our logo was all over the New York Stock Exchange. It really made me proud of what we had done in a very short time, and also my competitive drive really kicked in to say, all right, let's see what this is going to be now in a year.
Super exciting, and just kind of coming back to that theme of either supporting a community, investing in the community, for building a community, right? Each of you are participating in one or all elements of that. It's really exciting to see. Stacy, speaking of growth, Francis Financial now manages over, the last time, so it's over $600 million under management. And it is helping between your entrepreneurship and your philanthropy, helping thousands of women a year. What are the most common financial challenges that women, when they reach out for guidance, face? And how do you tailor your support to meet these unique needs? You talked about, the wide range of support that's provided, but how do you go about doing that?
So I have the blessing of working with all different types of women with all different backgrounds, from savvy ladies where someone might be really just getting started and maybe dealing with debt, or she's in her 40s and 50s and trying to
pay off a mortgage or student loans and pay for her bills. Through Francis Financial, we work with women who typically are pretty wealthy. Our minimum portfolio size that we manage is $2 million. But what I think is really interesting across all women, irregardless of how many zeros at the end of our income or zeros at the end of her savings and net worth, is the lack of financial confidence. 19% of women say that they're good with money. 19%. Okay, what about that whole other 81%? One of the biggest challenges that we see, irregardless of someone's net worth, their background, their education level, is a lack of confidence in their ability to make good decisions about money. We see this more so with women than men. And ultimately, what we've realized this is stemming from, it's not our intellect. In fact, I will tell you, women are better investors than men. With the same risk tolerance, women typically perform better. It's because we don't have as much experience. And I always say this, can you imagine the last time you were on a flight, you're walking in and then you turn right to go down the aisle? Could you imagine if the pilot tapped you on the finger and said, you know what, I'm not feeling so good, would you drive this plane for me? Would you fly? You would look at that person as if they were off their rocker. Because you don't have the experience, right? You don't have the training. But we as women are being told to make just as an important decision about the financial security of our life without the education, without the experience. So what I implore you, anyone, wherever you are in your situation of learning about finances, that you start that. That's what I did. I was so scared about becoming my grandmother that I started taking a finance class. And I realized this is not rocket science. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting. So, you know, there are so many ways, whether it's going on TikTok, although be careful what you see there, going on Savvy Ladies, we have hundreds of different courses and webinars, to reading books. And the other thing I will tell you and implore you to do is educate yourself, but also bring your kids along. Right? Let's stop the cycle of not having education around this and start to educate our kids, because they are the next generation and we want to make sure that they have the tools, the skills as well. And even if you feel like you are learning in your journey, be honest with them and learn together. That is the power that you can give them.
It's amazing, even today in New York City, I had 2 girls, 14, and then some of my 14-year-old had some time, and I was looking for a financial literacy course for girls or kids, and on my cam, so to speak, right? I was not able to find anything. It was jaw-dropping. I thought it'd be a no-brainer, and I've since found something virtual that she would be doing. But it was amazing to me that something so important and such a critical skill, unless you choose to learn about it, isn't taught in these schools. So thank you for that. Desiree, I'm curious how your role at AliCorp aligns with your passion for supporting underrepresented founders. You mentioned it's one of the reasons that you joined. I'm curious what type of initiatives you have created or participate in to assist these founders and help them grow.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to take a quick second to add on something I just said really fast. But as we know, these problems are so systemic, and what I do, I read all this data all the time, and there's this study, so many, but there's this one study that is so sad to me, where they took a group of 10-year-old boys and girls, and they basically asked them, do you think that you're good at math? And almost all the girls said no, and almost all the boys said yes. And this is recent, right? This is over the last couple of years.
And yet the girls, these same girls, outperformed by a small amount, but outperformed in math tests the boys, even though they themselves thought they weren't as good. And I just bring it up because I think that some of what you're saying comes from us ourselves thinking we're not good at math and finance and not pursuing that only because it's society telling us that, which is inaccurate. So I just wanted to add to that. So with me at AliCorp, I am heavily focused on driving capital to Black, disabled, and female founders. And one of the big initiatives I started this year is called Panelists. And it is our initiative where we are looking for the best founders building in technology across the U.S. with the lens of finding Black, Latin, and female founders. And we had our first one earlier this year, and the main pitch competition was hosted at Google's headquarters in New York City in June. And we invested $1 million into a founder that is building a hair braiding robot, which is really cool. And aside from it just sounding really cool, it's actually in a way a financial empowerment tool because a lot of Black women specifically spend a lot of money on hair braiding every year. And the women that do the hair braiding often either have health problems because they're standing, they're actually braiding the hair for long periods of time. So I really see it as solving kind of both like this financial and health challenge. So really excited about her. And now I'm working on scaling the program. So we launched applications for the program this week. So if you know any great founders, please send them my way. And I'm really looking to tap into untapped markets. So we know that a lot of this funding gap is because also a lot of the funders look a certain way and don't have the experiences that a lot of underrepresented founders might have, and so they miss opportunities. And so this really isn't just about doing something nice and just about increasing this 2% higher, but it's also about really making a lot of money because you're going to find untapped opportunities. And we also already know so many studies show that really some of the biggest, most innovative companies are made when you take diversity into consideration.
Thank you. And I think I have my notes saying that MIF Collective is following members, so I think you said 1,500 members.
Well, we're close to 1,300, but the announcement's coming in like a week.
Okay. And that's just in 14 months. So I'm curious how your leadership experiences have led to this growth and how fostering this environment of diversity and this community is propelling you as one forward.
So I think one of the big reasons that growth has been as quick as it has been is because we've done a really, really good job of curating senior executives within finance that are not service providers. The service providers all sponsor and partner. So it's really a unique place where we're bridging the gap between both investors on the venture capital and private equity partner side, along with the operators that are the financial decision makers at this company. So whether it's a CFO or a VP of finance or a strategic finance hire, they're making the decisions on what to do within venture debt. They're making the decisions on whether to raise an equity round. And there's just something that I never really foresaw is the amount of women within this organization that want to just genuinely help each other. I think that we have a WhatsApp channel now of like close to 500 women, and everyone shares advice, whether it is travel or divorce attorneys or employment attorneys or, hey, like what should we do to increase our COGS or what could we do better in go-to-market? Sarah Greger actually was one of our first CFO placements that we did through FIF, who is here today. And I just think that like in our little circle that we've made of close to 1,300 women, everybody cares about just helping each other and figuring out, okay, what do you do for work? How can I help you? It's not about, how can you help me? It's about how can I help you?
Jimmy, I don't have a watch up here, and I don't have my glasses on. So I just want to make sure we're moving time. I can't say you worry. So kind of Stacy, following up on what Meghan said in terms of leadership, what leadership qualities do you believe are essential in the financial services industry, especially for women?
Gosh, a lot. So I think one of them is I know it sounds odd, but being brave. Doing things, and even though you might be frightened, showing up and trying. I know, particularly when I was in my 20s, you have no idea how afraid I was to be a 26-year-old and then, a 27-year-old saying, let me manage your money for you in the stock and bond market, when I actually never used the anti-aging cream until just a few years ago, because I was hoping that I would look older so that people would give me some type of credibility. But I just went out and I just did it. And so being brave and doing things that are outside your comfort zone, and I truly did the whole fake it until you make it. I actually pretended that when I was talking to someone, I was talking about my best friend and how great that best friend was. The other thing I would say is resilience. It doesn't matter what lot in life you've been dealt, what great cards you've been dealt. Every single person in this room and outside, we have hardships, and some of them you're facing right now, and some of them are going to be around the corner that you don't know. And it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. And I will tell you, I've been knocked down so many times, and I have come home crying and feeling awful. But I will tell you that every time you get up, you're that much closer to achieving that goal. And I would say just the other piece of being a leader, I have the blessing of having phenomenal people around me. Saturday ladies, I have 4 staff members. So before it was just me, and I ran the charity on my own. I now have 4 unbelievable staff members and a board of 28. We have over 300 volunteers that are certified financial planners, phenomenal people. And through Francis Financial, there's now 19 of us. I'm actually really proud. Almost all of our advisors are women. We have 2 amazing men, and they're phenomenal. But I have been fortunate to really pick smart people who work really hard, who have great values, and also know when to fire people too, which is very hard to do, but I've gotten a lot better at it. So yeah, I would say bravery, resilience, and surrounding yourself with really good people around you and treating them like the absolute amazing, phenomenal people that they are.
I couldn't agree more. Being brave, it takes courage. But at 27, I was testifying, in front of the 9/11 Special Victims Fund, and not having gray hair and being a testifying expert isn't something that's an easy task to do it. I remember just saying, I just got to get through it, just get through it. And from there, I became an expert. Once you're an expert, you continue to be, but it was taking that, putting up my hand and saying, yeah, I'll do this, even though it was very, very uncomfortable, very, very stressful. But believing in yourself. One of the things that you said, Desiree, that really struck with me is being unapologetic. And I think that's something that women are not very good at. It's something that I take very seriously. I'm not going to apologize if I'm leaving work to go to my kids' thing. I'm not going to apologize to my kid because I'm not going to run these all done in club. Like, and the power of that in terms of owning your authentic self. How has that helped you kind of navigate some of those moments?
The moments of, can you clarify what you mean by the moments?
Like, I think we talked about this, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your child, whether it's your boss, whether it's a coworker, being authentically true to yourself and being unapologetic. So yeah, I'm leaving because I have to go to my child X, and I don't care who's looking at me and staring at their watch. I'm gonna go. I know I'll find a time to do everything I need to.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. We were chatting about just life too, and just balancing it all, and how do you do it all? And yeah, I think that for me, it's huge about network, kind of going back to what you're doing, right? And I have to say that I have such incredible friends, both men and women, that inspire me, that push me, that are there for me. I think the people that you surround yourself by is just huge. And my partner, my husband, is here. He is also we really are 50-50 partners in managing the home, managing our son. All of these things are really important, and I think to the unapologetic piece, in those situations, even with my husband, I'm very unapologetic of being like, I need your help with this for me to do this other thing. Can you help me? And I do the same for him, right? But not being scared to tell people what you need, whether that is a friendship, your partner, at work. Setting boundaries, expressing what you need, what you want. I think that's the only way you're really going to be able to make things happen.
Yeah, except with very few more. Meghan, you mentioned your husband as well, as Stacy, and I also have an incredible support system at home, and part of it is finding that we're talking about men, as maybe we might have the wrong perception, but the reality of it is none of us could be here if we didn't have the support of ourselves and have that relationship, which sometimes is 50-50, sometimes it's 60-40, and it flips back and forth. So Meghan, maybe you could talk a little bit about how that's propelling your career.
How what?
The support
Of my family and my husband. Yeah, I mean, I think people have said, and I read way too many memes, but one meme that I saw recently, it was about if you're a female entrepreneur, then you either need a really understanding husband or you don't need a husband. And I will say that is honestly very true. I mean, my husband is super understanding. He's also a banker. He gave up his golden retriever for me, which I'm almost embarrassed to say because I developed an allergy later in life. I still tell him he chose the wrong blondes, but here we are. But yeah, I think that whether it is friends, family, even your work wife or people that you work with, you need to be able to vent to folks. And I think too often now in today's society, people don't feel like they can be their genuine self. And enjoying work isn't a bad thing. You can have fun at work. You can go to happy hour. You can enjoy yourself. And I think in certain aspects of corporate America, people try to make you not feel that way. And then I also think if you are a manager, and this is just kind of a side note, don't take credit for what your people do. Elevate your people, make them feel good, because the best managers that I've ever had are people that were not threatened by me, but saw me as an addition to themselves and were able to kind of be the people that pushed me up the ladder versus kind of throwing me down the ladder. So that's what I would say.
Excellent as well. I hope everybody has enjoyed today's discussion. But before we kind of wrap up, we kind of weave through the theme of work-life balance. But if each of you could kind of give the audience a takeaway or a piece of advice as they navigate their own careers and their own paths, and as it relates to the professional universe, but also just the passion with which you do everything else that you do. Certainly.
I'm probably a bad person to ask because I don't have much of a work-life balance right now. However, I would say find something that you're super passionate about, because then it really is a work-life balance. You enjoy what you do and you're looking forward to doing it. But again, I do not have children, and I recognize that that is something that is very different from the majority of women that I respect and admire, including my own family. But I do have 11 nieces and nephews and 2 great nieces, and they are adorable. But I'm happy to hand them back when I'm not sure.
Mine would be, do not let anybody define you. I think that when you walk into a room, we all are susceptible to this. You can make assumptions about what someone is good at, what they're not, just based on what they sound or what they look like, and really, you could be radically wrong. And but sadly, kind of back to my story that I was saying about the little girls, you can allow that to define you. I mean, you can start saying, oh, well, they think I should be this, so I will be that, or I'll only be that. And just don't let ever anybody do that. You know who you are, and be that person.
So mine is some saving advice. So when you look at where you're spending your money, about 30 to 40% should be on like housing, and should be really 30, but let's be honest, we live in New York. And then the rest can be on anything you want, except 20%, I know this is a big number, 20% should go towards savings. And don't just put it under your mattress, although money markets, right, there's still some upwards of 5, but get that money investing for you. I know that it's not easy. When I first started, I made no money, but every time I gave myself a raise, I gave my savings a raise, to the point where I was able to do the 20%. If you're able to do that in a consistent basis, you are building your financial security for the rest of your life. And every additional dollar you put away will double, triple, quadruple for yourself for the future. I feel so strongly that money is so important, and it's not about the Gucci bag. Particularly for women, what does money do? It gives us options. It gives us options to start an amazing, unbelievable business, to do the things that we love. It gives us the option to live in a place that we feel safe and secure. It gives us the option to retire, maybe when we have a health need, or be able to help someone in our family that has a need. I really believe how important money is. And the final thing I will say, I know that it's hard sometimes to make sacrifices now to put money away for the future. But I want you to think of yourself in 20 or 30, or maybe even for some of us in 40 years. Do you love her? Do you love her? If you love that person who's going to be 20, 30, 40 years older than you are today, that woman, then take care of her today. Put that extra dollar away. Max out your 401k and get the match. I implore you to do it, because it's going to be the way that you have options in your life, and it's the way that you're going to build that financial security for yourself.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. This was wonderful, and I hope you all enjoyed this session, feel inspired, feel empowered, and have walked away thinking of these wonderful women and their stories, and take some of their advice and invest in yourself.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.